Hey guys, I'm Jeremy, and here's a trip I did to a few 14,000 foot peaks in Colorado in the last week to Bierstadt, Torreys and Grays. I'll first show you some of the videos of the trip, and then afterwards I'll do the commentary. So Colorado has 58 peaks that are over 14,000 feet, which is like 4,200 meters. And so these peaks are super popular, not just in Colorado, but all over the country. People are coming to do these. Obviously, they range in difficulty. I think the majority of them aren't super bad, except for maybe the last 5 or 6 of them are quite tough. Maybe 1 or 2 of them are quite technical, and Of course, a few people have died each year on these peaks, like Capitol, Long's Peak is tough. I think Pyramid and one or two others. So I've done some high peaks in China that were probably 16 or 17,000 feet. So I wasn't really too nervous about doing these, especially if they're the easier ones. So I know Bierstadt and Gray and Torreys are pretty popular, and they're not far from Denver. So on a Monday, I headed off to do Bierstadt. I didn't get there until, I don't know, maybe like 2 o'clock or something like that, which in the summer, you really want to get up and leave at like 5 or 6 in the morning, because around like 1, 2, 3 o'clock, you get thunderstorms and you could get hit by lightning. It could be dangerous. So you want to definitely leave early if you're doing it in the summer. I'm doing this at the end of September. It's kind of getting cold now, so there's not as many thunderstorms and stuff, but you still got to be careful. And obviously, if I was going up and there was bad weather, I wouldn't have done the climb. So I headed out to Bierstadt, which is about an hour and a half or so from Denver. And that's a pretty accessible one, because some of the other ones you have to go down like kind of a beat up road or something like that. But they have a nice big parking lot at Guanella Pass there. And there's a bunch of cars, and a bunch of people do that actually all the time, especially on the weekends. Since it was Monday, there wasn't too many people that day, maybe like 30 or 40 people total. It took me about 3 hours to get up there and about 2 hours down. It's gradual at the beginning, and then like most climbs, it'll get steeper as you go. And it wasn't too tough. At the top, you've got kind of, a decent amount of these big boulders that you have to go over. So you got to be careful there not to like slip or anything. Or if there was snow up there, it would be hard to see where the holes would be. So you'd really have to be careful. And then the next morning I headed out to do Grays and Torreys, which are 2 peaks just next to each other. They're probably, I don't know, like a mile apart or something like that, but not very close. I mean, it adds a couple hours to your trip if you're going to do both of those peaks. But you could probably do them both, I guess, probably about 5 hours, 4 or 5 hours up if you're going to do both, and then, 2 hours down at least. And the only problem with that is that it's not far from where I was at. It's only about a half hour from Guanella Pass, or like an hour and 20 minutes from Denver. But the road that you get off to take there is super crappy, so you need a 4x4 vehicle or a truck or something. I was able to go about a mile to where there was a sign that said it was up to Grays Peak, and there was a little parking lot there. After that point is where the road definitely, you can't take a regular car or anything. So I parked there, and luckily I saw a couple guys that were going up there in a truck. They gave me a ride to the trailhead. But of course, when I got back down, I had to walk an extra, 45 minutes, probably about 2.5 miles to get back to my van. And that hike was also not too bad. You don't have like too many boulders or anything like Bierstadt or whatever, but yeah, it's a long walk. You could kind of do a loop. When you get up towards the top, there's a branch, and you could go right to Torreys, which is, relatively steep. It was cool. It's the first time I saw the Rocky Mountain goat, those white goats that are really pretty. Which, by the way, those aren't actually native to Colorado. Those are up from like northwestern United States and Canada, like from, Alaska down to like Idaho and Montana. They introduced those like 70 or 80 years ago. Now they're like all over on the tops of the peaks. The more native animals would be like the rams for Colorado. But anyway, I went down and then went up Grays Peak. And yeah, on this trip there was a lot more storms. I think I had like, maybe 5 short storms that day that were only about 15 or 20 minutes. But I was a little nervous, especially for the first one. I kind of just, if you're ever in a situation like that, I mean, if it's not totally open, if you could kind of hide in an area and get your back to the wind and the snow or rain, do that. And so I just waited a bit, and a couple more came, but luckily I could tell they were short storms. So I was able to complete the trip and make it down by, 5 or 6 o'clock. So yeah, it was a long day. It was tough, especially doing that on a Monday and then a Tuesday, but definitely worth it. And if you want to join me on a tour, I can take you up to some of these 14,000 foot mountains. If you're interested, I'll put a link below. And because that could be nice for some people, because you obviously could do it on your own, but by the time you get back to your car, you're super tired. So I don't mind driving people back to Denver or wherever they're at. And of course I can take photos of you along the way, which is kind of nice sometimes, because you might be one of the only people up there. As far as winter goes, I'm not sure if you can do many of those peaks. I think Quandary is safe enough where you don't have to worry about avalanches from what I've read, but I'll have to research a bit more. But anyway, I would recommend coming out and trying at least one 14er sometime. They're pretty cool, and I think it's reasonable. I mean, it's definitely 3 or 4 tough hours, but it's worth it for sure. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, hit that like button and subscribe if you want to see more content. My channel has a lot of different stuff from my travels around the world, whether hiking or biking, and some of the things over the years I've done, whether I was in the military, commercial fishing in Alaska, or my experience living in China and Taiwan for 15 years. And I was a teacher there and led tours and did all kinds of stuff. So if that stuff's beneficial for you or entertaining, subscribe, and I hope to see you next time. Cheers.